Age of Interop is brought to you by HP Networking. Change the rules to enable the cloud. Also brought to you by Citrix and GoToMeeting. Go over to GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free Now button, and enter in the word podcast for a 30-day free trial. And also Telestream and Wirecast. Produce your show straight from your computer right to the internet with Wirecast. Geekazine is a proud member of the TechPodcast.com network. If it's tech, it's here.
So Les Stuart, I see that you've actually got a title for Distinguished Architect. Now that's a really, really cool title. It's really fancy, but what exactly are you architecting? What do you do with HP?
Well, what I am responsible for is the network management strategy and solution. And that translates to products across ESSN, so enterprise storage, server, and networking. So my background, of course, is in network management, and I was the chief architect for IMC, but now I am extending that across storage, server, and networking.
Okay. All right. So when you're talking, you're talking about the whole suite of management that HP has.
That's correct.
From the OpenView and Node Manager all the way down to IMC, and even as you mentioned earlier, the broker management side.
That is correct. That is correct. So I'm not defining requirements anymore per se for individual products, but really the whole strategy of how do we bring all this together.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, it's challenging because we've got different business units with different, with different goals.
Right.
HP software is a huge business. It's like HP software is, I believe, one of the top software companies in the world. And they have their own goals and objectives. ESSN, storage server networking, we have a different set of objectives. And management plays a different role within ESSN. So my first and primary focus is on consolidating the management over storage server and networking.
Okay, so do we have anything today that actually has all of those products, or is that the starting vision from here on? Well, maybe not from today, but the starting vision from on out to try and consolidate all that, or do we actually have something today?
Nope, we don't have anything today.
So, but that is the vision that we're moving towards.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's various ways that we're going to go about it. So, for instance, if you come from the storage side, and that's your primary interface, we want that tool to be your single pane of glass. And we want that tool to launch server management and network management. But maybe your view is from the server side, and you're using a tool like Insight Manager or SIM, then that should be able to launch your storage management and your network management. And then lastly, of course, if you're coming in from the network side, like an IMC or a PCM, we want that to launch the storage manager or the server manager.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you're not actually going to rewrite everything from the ground up.
No.
You're going to use existing tools that will eventually report up to a main central interface.
Absolutely, absolutely. Why reinvent the wheel when in each of those areas, we got great management solutions.
Right, right. I mean, you don't want to rewrite SIM. I mean, there's already a lot of storage or server administrators out there that are used to SIM.
Yeah.
They already know how to use it. They already know how.
And it's good.
Right.
It's really good.
Right.
As is IMC, really good.
Right.
Storage Essentials, really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's put a single pane of glass, depending on which administrator is coming in, to do the management.
Okay. So, are you inventing? Are you guys planning on developing a new software that will roll everything up? Or are you planning on using existing software that will be the pane? Like, let's say OpenView, for example. Or would you be using OpenView as that everybody would roll up to, or are you actually going to have OpenView report to something else?
Well, OpenView is part of HP software. Mm-hmm. All right. So HP software has, like I said, different management objectives and goals. What I'm focusing on is just really within ESSN right now. That's my first and foremost priority. Now, there are two ways that we can go about it, right? One is we can do a glorified link and launch, all right? Where, okay, I'm going to launch it from IMC, I'm going to launch into SIM, all right? And we can do a lot more things to glorify it and actually make it better, all right? But that's one form. The other form, which we are starting some work on, is to create a common set of libraries and modules that each of the applications can call So for instance, a discovery library that IMC embeds, that SIM embeds, that Storage Essential embeds, thereby we're all using a common piece of code that allows for some interoperability between the two. Also, how about a common presentation layer?
Yes.
Right, so that we can all make calls to this common presentation layer so that we can have a more uniform approach to how we present the interface to the user. Under investigation.
Sure.
Yeah.
You guys are still looking into it, and there's no been deciding points yet.
Right. Under investigation. What we'll likely do, though, is go for the low-hanging fruit of the Lincoln launch so that at least you can get into the management console for the different technology that you might want to manage.
And then maybe build on that, saying, okay, maybe now instead of a link, I'll have maybe a tiny health status, and then I can click on that, and then just start building onto it.
Exactly. And actually doing some east-west communication between the components. So, for instance, you can see where IMC, having really good network and connectivity information, could perhaps pass information into SIM. Because SIM is where you're going to build a server profile, and you need to put in connection information as you're building that server profile. Might as well get it from IMC, so that east-west communication. So that's part of glorifying that Lincoln launch.
So you're really going to be building on that SOA, or the services-oriented architecture, where you're basically going to have different services, and you'll have a message bus as they're talking to all the different devices.
That is the end goal. That's the end goal, where you're using common libraries and you're using a communication bus to tie them together. That would be the end goal. Like I said, though, the low-hanging fruit, which we can even build on while the big picture is being worked on in the background, is the Lincoln launch, East-West communications, and the East-West communications doesn't need a bus, doesn't really even need an API. You can take connection information about how one switch is connected to another, or how a server is connected to a switch, look it up in the IMC database, grab that data, and just push it right into SIM. No fancy bus or anything necessary.
Okay, so when we're talking about management, there's always different pieces of management. Some people say, well, I want to manage my server. Basically, they just mean, I want to look at what my server's doing. Right? There's lots of different focuses of management, and we talked about this earlier. That's actually the FCAPS rule.
Correct.
Now, what is HP actually planning on doing for management at first? Is it really just going to be the monitoring piece of it, and then they're going to move on to see if we can, do configuration from that same thing? Or are you guys still trying to keep configuration down to the individual modules and just have it all roll up as a report?
No, we want to be able to manage and monitor. I always draw the distinction between the two, because I believe in the FCAPS methodology also. I mean, that's how I grew up, fault config, asset performance security. A lot of management solutions don't even deliver on FCAPS, by the way.
Well, they do, but they always give more effort into one than the other.
Agreed.
For example, they may focus on configuration. Oh yeah, we can also do fault monitoring as well and alerting, but we're really configuration, and security is over here, and you basically have to get a whole bunch of different software to fill.
Bingo, exactly. And that's why I said no solution usually covers the whole FCAPS.
Right.
Usually they got to go get multiple, different pieces to put FCAPS together. I firmly believe in that methodology, but as far as our approach is, we want to manage and monitor. Monitoring is actually easy, provided that the instrumentation is there. You know what? If this microphone's got an agent, some type, whether it be a DMI, an SNMP, whatever, some type of agent, I can monitor it, right? Okay. But managing it, that's a different thing. But that's really what we want to bring, because we want to federate that server storage and network management, so that customers or IT can be more agile in turning up a service. So when they turn up when want to turn up a service, they can, from the edge switch, through the firewall, through the router, through the storage and server, and all the components in between those, they can easily provision.
So to clarify what you're saying, what I'm hearing is from a central interface, you'll be able to say, you basically have one task, carve up a server, and from there it'll assign it to VLAN, it'll slice out the storage from your storage area network.
Now you got it.
It'll allow certain firewall rules. If you actually identify it as a certain service, and you want it to be available through the internet, then it'll also put the ACLs for the firewall
you got
and everything all the way from the end.
That's the big picture.
Okay.
That's the real big picture. And of course, monitor that.
Okay.
And as a service, as a PAL, as whatever the entity that you want to call it, right now I'm just calling it service, you want to monitor that as well. So you're monitoring that access port, you're monitoring the VRF that's configured in the router, you're monitoring excuse me, the IPS where appropriate, you're monitoring the IO at the server level, you're monitoring perhaps caching that's going on at the storage level. Boom.
Okay, so a little bit more of a difficult question. With this vision, and there's really no answer to this, I'm sure, because you don't actually have a product yet. But with this vision, are we actually anticipating an open standards interface so that other customers or IT departments can, let's say, interface this system into their existing systems? They may not want to rip everything out and just replace it with one system. They may like the way their current management system does, and they want to be able to manage it here, but still feed into this system. Is there going to be an open standards for HP for this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we can approach that two different ways. The decision hasn't been made. Okay, what's easy to do is to put an XML wrapper and expose an API. Right. That's easy to do. But what's more interesting right now is what's going on in the DMTF, which I'm a member of, with NetConf and Yang. NetConf and Yang is a network modeling protocol and language that really facilitates this type of service delivery that we're talking about doing. And NetConf is really, underneath the covers, it's XML. Okay, it's XML/HTTP, but with a structure that's really suited for what we're trying to do. We haven't already decided, because NetConf and Yang has not really seen any big commercial or enterprise implementations right now. Right now it's just still kind of hanging out predominantly in R&D and in the educational community. So we'll see. But it's easy for us to expose an API, an XML API for what we're trying to do.
Okay, so you had mentioned NetConf and Yang. Is that going to be like a draft that other companies are actually participating in?
It's already a draft right now.
So it is being drafted right now.
Yeah.
With, what are some of the companies that are actually a part of that draft?
Sorry, I don't recall off the top of my head. Okay. But
and we can look it up later.
Yeah. If you go to dmtf.org, you'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but HP is definitely a major player in that.
We're not a major player in NetConf and Yang as others are, or as we are as big in other things. But I'm listening and I'm participating.
So you're paying attention, so that when something does get ratified or something, you're already aware of how to start implementing it into your systems.
Right. And we've already had labs, HP labs, and we've had R&D look into that. And they're like, yeah, we could do this.
Sounds like you've got a lot. That is a huge undertaking. I don't know how many different software groups there are in HP, but to try and get all of them talking into a single interface has got to be.
That's the fun part. Wow.
Is there any kind of I wouldn't say a deadline, but what would you consider if you wanted to put something together? Has HP at least said we're going to try and get something together at such and such time so we have something? It's always easy to say we're looking into it. That's the direction we want to go. But what is there an actual date on when we want to start seeing something from HP as this.
Yeah,
rollout.
there probably is, but I'm probably not the one that can even give it. No, I'm sure there is.
You're still in the infancy of the entire project.
Well, we're moving. We're more than infancy. We're moving along, but people that control that, the destiny of something like
Sure.
that, are way above my pay grade.
Sure. So we just have to basically keep our ears open and just see what HP is going to happen.
And
with
you
this
know
whole
what? You
system.
like, and as we were talking, you can recall, I talked about that initial, the low hanging fruit.
Yes, and
You'll
the
be able to
launch.
see. You'll be able to see that starting to come, and that will, you'll be able to see that starting to come.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other questions. Thank you very much, Les. I appreciate it.
Man, my pleasure.
All right.
Fun stuff.
Geekazine coverage of Interop is brought to you by HP Networking. Change the rules to enable the cloud. Also brought to you by Citrix and GoToMeeting. Go over to GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free Now button, and enter in the word podcast for a 30-day free trial. And also Telestream and Wirecast. Produce your show straight from your computer right to the internet with Wirecast. Geekazine is a proud member of the TechPodcast.com network. If it's tech, it's here.